Tieu disappeared without a trace. No one could find her. Henry cut off contact with all the people he knew and vanished as well. The desperation of those searching was measured in their frantic efforts to locate the two missing souls. A man, clearly an authoritative figure, issued harsh commands demanding the pursuit be relentless. Every corner had to be searched. Every street, every bush, and every blade of grass was to be examined. Rewards promised were immense, multiplied beyond reason, 3 times, 4 times more, to whoever captured both Tieu and Henry and brought them back alive. Threats were given that failure would mean their own bodies would be taken as replacements if they faltered. The order was clear: no empty promises, no failure tolerated. The search focused first near the doctor's house, a place believed to be near where the girl might be hiding. Those assigned to the task assured their superior of their commitment to protecting her. Meanwhile, the 2 men responsible for tracking an autistic girl and finding Henry were given their tasks, with monetary rewards handed over to be divided as planned. The urgency was palpable. Even a moment's hesitation could mean losing their prey. The difficulty of the pursuit was acknowledged. Finding a place to hide was never easy, especially since the remoteness of a location could offer sanctuary or doom. There was a lingering suspicion among the pursuers. The daughter of a certain man was believed to still be hiding in the area. This tied back to a previous incident where one man and his wife had deliberately chased away a woman who left behind a son, whose existence remained a mystery to many. There was a whispered theory that she might be in hiding from the autistic man. A theory that was simple enough to be believable. The question arose whether the man knew a route back to the country, a piece of information significant to the search. Despite the intensity of the hunt, the mother of the autistic girl was seen frantically searching everywhere, but to no avail. The stakes were high. If the girl remained unfound, the president of the organization would personally take charge, punishing everyone responsible. The urgency was constant even during small moments of respite. As the man finished drinking, consciousness of unfinished business remained. The searchers had scoured tirelessly, only to find the little girl. The 2 men they sought remained elusive. Tieu was clearly in danger. The last time she was seen, she had stayed in a certain area, but whether she was still there was unknown. One man decided to report back before the captors found her. Despite his efforts, he was clueless and only had a faint hope upon hearing she was picking papaya along a nearby road. He kept pressing forward, praying that the villains had not yet caught up with her. At times, confusion frustrated the search. A path seemed to lead to another village instead of Tieu. Yet the determination to continue the search never wavered. Meanwhile, Tieu rested deeply, sleeping soundly for the first prolonged period in a long time. A gentle breakfast was prepared with care, to be followed by gentle waking. Meanwhile, a messenger was tasked with delivering urgent news to eager comrades, who were ordered to intensify their protective measures and gather more intelligence. A supervisor promised to personally handle the deceased, signaling the perilous nature of the mission. The protective measures had to intensify. The spaces where Tieu might hide were being scrutinized, but those responsible had never seen the tall, slender girl with shoulder-length hair rumored to be hiding. Villages were checked, houses scoured, but the elusive target remained hidden, disappearing without a trace. The searchers had no clue where Tieu had gone, often meeting dead ends. Sleep came without answers, and the found safety was always short-lived amid suspicion and danger. One man, Van, had found Tieu and was trying to keep her safe. Their secret meetings raised more questions than answers. Tensions rose with every whispered conversation, every word hinting at greater threats. Van explained how he had pieced together Tieu's past, the accident on the mountain, how her grandparents had saved her, and the dangers that awaited her should they be discovered. Despite assurances, the threat loomed large. The protection of Henry, a policeman skilled and formidable, was stressed repeatedly as their only hope to shield Tieu from the president's wrath. The trust in Henry was tentative, but necessary. A call was made to confirm his reliability. Henry reassured that he was aware of the threats and was actively protecting Tieu. Time was needed before a more permanent solution could be enacted. Van begged Tieu to stay hidden and safe, but also urged her precaution, as those hunting for her would not relent. He handed over money to cover expenses, an act of care mingled with desperation. Cousins and family complicated the emotional landscape. A brother's absence of love for her was mentioned matter-of-factly. The fear remained constant, the hope for rescue mixed with deep anxiety. Every letter exchanged with her mother revealed the toll the pursuit took. Adjusting flight schedules, the pressure to succeed and survive, the longing for family, and the everyday struggles of work and health all painted a portrait of a life in turmoil. The offer of a reward for hunting down what was referred to as a suicide victim added a dark shade to the tale, marking Tieu as vulnerable, hunted, and increasingly unsafe. A new place had to be found, safer than before, for her to continue living. The urgency of moving and hiding made even the simplest necessity, like finding shelter, a challenge. Attempts to rent a house were met with difficulty. The absence of the landlord, strict identification requirements, and a pervasive sense of danger underscored the inhospitable environment. Those who helped searched deeper and deeper in hopes of securing a sanctuary, knowing full well that even a slight misstep could bring ruin. Throughout it all, the story of Tieu and those intertwined with her fate remained one of survival, fear, loyalty, and relentless pursuit. This was just the beginning of a long, harrowing journey for Tieu, Henry, and the others caught in the shadows of power, betrayal, and protection. Every step was shadowed by danger, every connection fraught with uncertainty. The world they navigated was cruel, yet punctuated with moments of kindness, desperation pitted against hope. The hunt was on, the stakes high, and the cost of failure unimaginable. The fate of Tieu was not just a story of one girl, but a tangled web of lives and loyalties stretched to the breaking point. The disappearance of Tieu and Henry had thrown everyone into a heightened state of paranoia and urgency. The powerful enemies they faced were not ordinary criminals, but men wielding authority and influence who saw the two as threats to be eliminated at any cost. Every moment away from their pursuers meant greater danger, and every decision was weighted with the possibility of life or death. Tieu's situation was especially precarious. She was young, vulnerable, and complicated by her autistic condition, which made the world a complicated and often hostile place for her. She was hiding in remote areas where the landscape's quiet offered only fragile refuge. Her sleep was deep and needed, an escape from a waking nightmare of relentless pursuit. The depth of her vulnerability contrasted with the steely resolve of those who sought to protect her, like Van and Henry. These protectors bore their own burdens, sworn to guard her safety, even as the net closed tighter around them. Henry, beneath his outward calmness as a police officer, was a man marked by loyalty and hidden fierceness. His position as a special crime investigator empowered him with skills and resources, but it also meant he walked a tightrope between public duty and secret guardianship. His connection to Tieu was not just professional but personal, fraught with risks that could cost him everything. Knowing that powerful forces were hunting her made him ever cautious, sometimes even cold, but always determined. The heavy responsibility weighed on his shoulders, forcing him to constantly recalibrate between hope and despair. Van was another crucial figure in this web of danger and care. His discovery of Tieu in hiding was no accident, but a mix of desperation and deep empathy. He understood the stakes, the hidden threats swirling invisibly around them, danger from the shadows, as well as from human foes. His protective instincts clashed with his recognition of his own helplessness. His decision to share knowledge about Tieu's past, including her accident and rescue by grandparents, was an effort to bring clarity amid chaos. But even such clarity was double-edged. The same information that could protect her could also be weaponized by those hunting her. The tension between concealment and exposure permeated every moment. Tieu's basic survival, finding shelter, food, and safety in a world where no place was truly safe, became an agonizing challenge. Attempts to rent a house exposed the harsh realities of life on the run: mistrust from landlords, the bureaucratic barriers of identification, and the constant threat of betrayal. Even the smallest gestures of kindness were tinged with suspicion. The search areas were isolated yet fraught with invisible dangers, where the wrong step or spoken word could trigger catastrophe. The social dynamics within this fraught environment were complex. Those seeking Tieu were relentless, driven by a mix of fear, greed, and orders from higher powers. Their mindset reflected the brutal logic of survival and control. Anyone who survived was a threat to be extinguished completely. The cruel calculation of offering rewards several times over the original sums showed the lengths to which they would go. It spoke to the fear they felt of losing control and the ruthless measures employed to regain it. Meanwhile, those hiding felt the pressure of ticking time. The mention of the president's threat to personally come after the autistic girl if she was not found revealed how high the stakes were. It was not just a quest for control, but a battle of wills and ideologies. The president's involvement hinted at larger forces at play, political, personal, and possibly corrupt, underscoring the depth of the conspiracy. Among the moments of tension, human vulnerability shone through. The dialogue with Tieu's mother, full of concern for health, family, and the hope for grandchildren, revealed the broader human context. It grounded the tale of fear and flight in ordinary hopes and responsibilities, reminding readers that beneath the drama were real lives and real emotions. The postponed flight, the busy work schedules, and the distant hopes for a daughter-in-law wove everyday normalcy into an otherwise perilous existence. The narrative suggested a broader web of relationships and backstories that shaped each character's motivation. The fractured family ties, including a brother who did not love Tieu, added layers of emotional complexity. These relationships were not just backdrops, but crucial factors influencing decisions, alliances, and betrayals. It painted a picture of people caught between loyalty and survival, love and fear. The repeated emphasis on Henry's role as protector reflected a deep human need for safety in a world that constantly threatened chaos. Yet this protection came at costs: social isolation, constant vigilance, and the moral ambiguities of working undercover against relentless enemies. Henry's dual identity as both guardian and policeman blurred lines between duty and personal commitment. In the midst of escalating danger, the story captured a chilling truth. Safety was temporary, trust was fragile, and the simple act of renting a place to hide became a battle against bureaucratic and personal obstacles. The unknown whereabouts of landlords, the stipulations on identification, and the uncertainty of neighborhood safety created an environment where every choice was suspect. This part of the story deepened the emotional and psychological texture of the narrative, showing the exhausting tension between hope for rescue and fear of capture. It illustrated the relentless pressure on those on the run and the complex, often hidden alliances that formed as a result. The power dynamics between hunters and hunted, protectors and the vulnerable, underpinned the human drama with a relentless, suspenseful pulse. As the story progressed, the reader could sense that the impending confrontation was drawing nearer. The efforts to stay one step ahead, to shield the innocent, and to navigate moral and practical dilemmas all pointed toward an inevitable climax. But beyond action and suspense, it was the inner lives, the fears, hopes, regrets, and loyalties that gave the tale its profound emotional resonance. This intricate weave of danger, protection, betrayal, and survival transformed the story from a simple chase into a layered exploration of human resilience and vulnerability, set against a backdrop of power struggles and hidden threats. It invited readers to reflect on the costs of loyalty and the price of freedom in a world where trust was a rare currency and every shadow could harbor peril. The atmosphere thickened with tension as time passed. Each day brought new dangers and frayed nerves. Tieuca's fragile safety teetered on uncertainty, while those hunting her intensified efforts. Shadows lengthened, footsteps quickened, and the once faint threat became an urgent storm closing in. The reality of life in hiding emerged in sharp focus, the cold nights, scarce food, and the constant dread of discovery. The mental strain was immense, especially for someone like Tieu, whose autism made sensory overload and unexpected encounters profoundly overwhelming. Simple actions like stepping outside at dawn or hearing the rustle of leaves sparked waves of anxiety that were as dangerous as the physical threats. Van carried the weight of responsibility heavily. His decisions shaped the fragile threads holding Tieuca's safety together. He moved cautiously, weighing every choice against potential fallout. His protective role blurred lines between courage and recklessness, love and desperation. With each step deeper into the search for shelter and sanctuary, he faced rejection and hostility. Landlords turned away those without papers, neighbors eyed strangers suspiciously, and rumors whispered through quiet streets. The harshness of life on the run was punctuated by moments of stark isolation. The cold realities of displacement mixed with the constant hope of finding a place where Tieu could breathe freely, even briefly. Henry operated in the shadows with quiet efficiency. His dual existence sharpened the edges of his loyalty and duty. Official investigations and covert protection interwove seamlessly in his hands. His contacts provided fragmented pieces of intelligence, each fragment piecing together the puzzle of who was behind the relentless pursuit. The president's involvement hinted at layers of corruption and power struggles, too dangerous for open confrontation. Henry's methods were precise, but the emotional toll was heavy. Negotiating the delicate balance between appearing detached and remaining deeply invested allowed him to sustain the long game. His strength was as much about restraint as action. The autistic girl's presence was like a fragile thread in a vast maze. Her unpredictability challenged those who tried to shield her. Interaction required patience and understanding, qualities tested relentlessly by the surrounding chaos. Tieuca's world was one of patterns and routines disrupted violently, forcing adaptation beyond her control. She relied largely on the few constants in her environment, the gentle voices of her protectors, the small acts of care, and the rare moments of calm. Each guiding hand was a lifeline, each smile a balm against the looming fear. The story captured the rawness of her experience, vulnerability tied tightly to resilience in ways unseen by many. More than hollow threats, the president's decisiveness represented a looming existential threat. His orders were absolute. Find Tieu, remove the threat she represented, and make an example of resistance. The mechanisms of power mobilized swiftly, rewards multiplied, surveillance tightened, and loyal operatives dispatched to every possible hiding place. Informants whispered, alliances shifted, and patrons of the dark dance of power pulled strings unseen. The quest for Tieu became entangled with politics, personal vendettas, and the desperation of men who would sacrifice anything to maintain control. The searchers themselves became characters intertwined in a larger narrative of fear and ambition. Driven by varied motivations, from greed to ideology, They portrayed a fractured humanity caught in the throes of survival and allegiance. Some believed in the righteousness of their cause, others merely followed orders or pursued rewards. The promise of riches distorted morals, facilitating acts of cruelty justified by survival. The story painted a chilling picture of human nature when driven by fear and power, illustrating how easily humanity's darker instincts surface in times of crisis. This quest for control extended beyond immediate physical danger into psychological warfare. The constant need to evade detection created a backdrop of suspense, saturated with paranoia. Every noise could herald capture, every shadow a potential threat. Tukui's protectors faced their own demons, battling exhaustion, doubt, and the weight of impossible choices. The silent moments between heartbeats were as significant as moments of action. The narrative revealed how stress layered upon vulnerabilities, how fear shaped reactions, and how loyalty contended with survival instinct. The dynamics of trust became central. Protection demanded not only secrecy, but faith in the unseen and uncontrollable. Henry, Van, and those on the inside formed a delicate network where betrayal could be deadly. Their relationships, forged in crisis, represented fragile alliances held together by necessity as much as conviction. The story explored the human cost of such connections, loneliness masked by duty, friendship shadowed by suspicion, and the hope for safety mingled with inevitable loss. The interplay between fate and agency deepened. Tukai's story mirrored human struggles, caught between forces beyond control and personal resilience. Her journey through fear, survival, and occasional moments of solace painted a broad canvas reflecting larger themes. Themes of power, innocence, corruption, and redemption wove throughout the narrative. The story held a mirror to the complexity of existence, where humanity's best and worst impulses intertwined inextricably. At the heart of the tale lay a profound meditation on vulnerability. Tukai, in her innocence and condition, embodied the fragile yet stubborn spark of life, resisting engulfment by darkness. Her protectors' actions underscored the depth of human compassion and the length some will go to defend it. The narrative highlighted that protection was more than physical safety. It was about preserving dignity, hope, and identity in the face of obliteration. The relentless opposition embodied by the president and his forces underscored the systemic nature of threats beyond the individual. The story implied broader societal and political dysfunctions, reflecting struggles within institutions and the corruption of justice. These forces operated above and beyond personal vendettas, enmeshing the characters in a tapestry of power dynamics far larger than their personal struggles. The emotional landscape was textured by moments of tenderness amid chaos. Small victories, like a safe night or a successful escape, became victories for the soul. The story illuminated the quiet strength found in human connection, small rituals of care, and the perseverance of hope. These moments offered reprieve and motivation, fueling continued resistance against overwhelming odds. The narrative's pacing balanced tension with introspection. Action-driven scenes of pursuit and evasion alternated with deeper reflections on character psyche and relationships. This oscillation created a rich, immersive experience, drawing readers into both the external dangers and internal struggles faced by the characters. The detailed descriptions of setting, emotions, and thought processes enriched the story's texture, making each moment resonate with impact. The story's climax approached, though it remained unpredictable. The intersecting paths of hunters and hunted, protectors and pursuers, converged toward a decisive encounter. The outcome was shaded with ambiguity, reinforcing themes of uncertainty and the fragile nature of security. The conclusion was not simply about victory or defeat, but about the continuation of human struggle under shifting tides of fortune. The ending style embraced complexity rather than closure. It acknowledged the realities that many conflicts leave open wounds and unresolved questions. This open-endedness invited reflection on broader themes and left space for imagination beyond the written word. The story's close felt full and profound, offering a sense of completion without finality. This narrative arc transformed a tale of pursuit into an exploration of human endurance amidst adversity. It captured the interplay of power and vulnerability, fear and loyalty, darkness and compassion. Through richly detailed characters and setting, it offered a haunting meditation on the costs of survival and the resilience of the human spirit. The story's ultimate message was layered. It presented a world where safety was precarious, trust was rare, and courage was both everyday and extraordinary. It asked readers to consider what it means to protect and be protected, to face overwhelming odds and still choose hope. It honored the complexity of human experience in a world where justice and danger coexist in uneasy balance. Thus, the tale of Tu Kai and her guardians ended not with resolution, but with enduring questions. Questions about power, identity, and the cost of freedom. It was a story of survival and resistance that echoed beyond its pages, a call to witness and remember the human stories entwined with broader struggles for justice and dignity. The story invited readers to walk with its characters through fear and hope, loss and love, danger and sanctuary. It became a poignant reminder that in a world shadowed by threats, the light of human connection and resilience remains perhaps the most powerful force of all.